I am back, and as usual, I am biased, loud, mouthed, and raw. If you are easily offended, then maybe this is not the best site for you. Having said that, let us go over this situation. While these two individuals are busy showing each other rather questionable displays of affection in a seafood restaurant, we are with the family, who are still all together in the park. There is concern that Cody will be upset when he gets back from vacation, for he will be confronted with unresolved issues the moment he gets back. Meri, being the voice of reason, speaks up and reminds everyone that she told Cody. "You just need to be fair, Cody. And you just need to fill our emotional tanks." My first thought was that Cody has no emotional investment, unless it is in regard to Robyn. Let's get real about that. The conversation between the original wives continues, coming back around to Cody. Once more, Meri states that Cody is family glue, and that pretty much everything just needs to revolve around him. I couldn't help but think at that point that Meri really needs to back up and shut her mouth, because what she is spewing isn't helping her. In fact, I would say that she just should shut up, because every word that leaves her mouth only makes things worse for her. The plot, on the other hand, comes back to San Diego, along with the newly wedded couple, whom I find very ridiculous. They are traveling in what can only be described as a tuk-tuk, which is basically a cycle, rickshaw, in the rain. The poor guy attempting to pedal them during the rain is left to endure while they ridicule this as some form of entertainment. For me at least, I would be ashamed by such a spectacle. I have never felt at ease with overly touristy activities. For the record, my laughter is not directed at the tuk-tuk itself, which I know is a common and essential mode of transport in numerous regions. Rather, my delight is in the foolishness of these two individuals choosing to drive in it, unnecessarily, in the rain, as some kind of great adventure. Their meetings continue, marked by over-top displays of love. I observed them. I couldn't help but think about the real-world repercussions. I sincerely hope they brought enough personal hygiene items and perhaps even cranberry juice, because from the vigor and pace at which they are getting intimate, it is obvious she will be left in quite an uncomfortable stance afterwards. Then we get a word from the original wives again, beginning with Meri. She informs us of her recent trip to Mexico. Robyn, in response to Meri, insists that she was really upset because she could not speak to Cody for those 3 days. Let us pause for a moment and gain perspective. Meri was only gone for 3 days, but Robyn went to great lengths to drive home the point that Cody call up the wives, casting herself as an angelic peacemaker. In reality, this was just a manipulating game on her part to ensure that whenever Cody is away from home, he ranks calling her above everyone else. As Robyn continues to tell me about her perception of what it is like to be a plural wife, I suddenly find myself struck with the way she looks. For a moment, I could have sworn I was observing Diane, not Robyn. Usually, when I look at her, she appears like Janelle Evans, Teen Mom, but in this instance, her demeanor and face matched that of Diane D so accurately, it caught me by surprise. Perhaps it was those pencil-line eyebrows. Something I find adorable. What makes this all the more incredible is the complete transformation we've seen, once pencil, line, now full, round, caterpillars. I must say, I am fond of both portrayals equally. What I fail to find satisfactory, though, are the nasty comments that are regularly hurled her way. People telling her to stop doing your eyebrows or that it looks like she is simply marking them up with a marker. These are not necessary. I like her eyebrow look, the same way I like Cody's thinning, stringy, long hair. Both are unique, one of a kind, and in their own way, they should just be left alone, just as they are. No need to intervene or insist upon modifications, because really, it is not in anyone's best interest. Robyn then brings the narrative back to the subject of the initial wives, faulting them for allowing their emotions to overwhelm them. She is implying that their reaction is out of line, especially considering the fact that Cody, in her opinion, is a good and honorable man. At this point, I couldn't help myself. If Cody were honorable, then he wouldn't have abandoned his newborn son to leave for San Diego, to indulge in his romantic affairs with Robyn. Her remark is full of hypocrisy. Robyn later communicates her desire that Cody will assure the other wives that although he is honeymooning with the love of his life, he has care for them as well. That is, she wants to salt their wounds so that they know even at their nadir, he loves her. Then the story shifts to Janelle. To begin with, she claims not to have replied to Cody's calls for 3 consecutive days. Nevertheless, Cody corrects her in a hurry by asserting that she gave him no attention for a total of 7 days. In his opinion, such silence was extremely difficult to endure. To be blunt, while he was utterly preoccupied with his romantic escapade with Robyn, he still possessed the strength of feelings to grumble that Janelle was not taking his calls. The irony is glaring. We are later presented with the relationship dynamics of Janelle and Cody. The two were close friends long before they wed, and Cody admits he had a long-held crush on her, finding her beautiful but most of all liking her as a friend. Janelle, however, suggests that she doesn't need the relationship filled with grand overtures, flowers, and laughter. She has been there once before, and she has no desire to repeat it. She seeks something a little more down to earth and consistent. Even when Janelle expressly tells him what she desires, Cody disbelievingly asserts what she is really after is for him to be more romantic. This contradiction reveals the most frequent theme throughout: Cody's cluelessness about how women think, even his own wives. His inability to hear or understand what Janelle herself is saying is patent. Christine then shares her perspective, admitting she initially resented Janelle and Cody's relationship because Cody valued Janelle's intellect in a manner he never seemed to value hers. Christine speculates that this had been a source of insecurity for her, but the brutal truth is Cody never actually valued Christine at all, not for her intellect or otherwise. And despite it sounding callous, honesty needs to be said. Sometimes it is better to face the reality of a relationship than to be in comforting illusions. The scene switches to Cody on the phone calling home, and he is speaking with Meri. He asks about how she is doing, and Meri says that she is unhappy. Truthfully, I would have hung up the phone at that moment if I were Cody. In fact, I'd hang up on whoever responded that way to me. To be even more honest, if I were married to Meri, I wouldn't have answered the phone at all. Perhaps I would have let it ring 3 or 4 times before finally answering, just to respond with a quick, "I can't talk right now," and then hang up. That is precisely what I would have done in a similar situation. As the conversation reaches an end, Meri tells Cody, "Text me before you go to bed." I can virtually guarantee that she is still waiting for that text today. When the so-called honeymoon is over and they return home from their escapades, Cody does his best to be a good husband by fixing dinner for the family as the wives head out shopping. Now we see baby Truly, and I am immediately reminded of Maggie Simpson with her sweet little bald head. The resemblance is uncanny, and it reminds me of the earlier vision of Robyn holding the grandbaby. Truly's appearance matches the same, with her bald, smooth head. Christine recalls sending Truly off to school one day when the school principal asked her to bring the baby downstairs and get her first school photos taken. This gave me an idea. Cody is an embarrassment. Here was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a photo of Truly in her very first school photos, and Cody was nowhere to be seen. It led me to wonder how many other significant firsts he has allowed to get away from him. One-time events, unrepeatable experiences which once lost can never be retrieved. And Cody again refuses to stay home and let his family experience these milestones alone. Once they had returned from the honeymoon, we get to hear the voice of Christine. It is interesting that she was barely out of childbirth and was suffering from postnatal depression. Naked in vulnerability, she called Robyn in tears, pleading for her to just tell her whether or not she really did need this long honeymoon with Cody. Robyn, rather than having sympathy, instead wound the hurt tighter. With no hesitation she replied, "Of course I did. Of course I needed this 11-day honeymoon. Strolling around San Diego with your husband, clutching his arm as if we had to get to a doctor's appointment. I needed all of that when you were still recovering from giving birth." The insensitivity is breathtaking. It puts me in mind that if anyone can grab what they need, then I would like to state plainly, I need to win the lottery. Robyn's selfishness has no bounds. More later, we observed the wives collectively on the spending spree, and I was happy to see them all crammed into the same car together at times. There is something pleasant about those fits of unity. Meanwhile, Cody attempts to justify the need for his 11-day honeymoon with Robyn. Robyn's contention, of course, is that she personally needed it. Cody's reasoning is absurd, though. He asserts that when he wedded the first wives, there were no kids around, and so it was fine to be absent that long presently. This reasoning is only adding insult to injury, in that leaving one's children unattended for nearly 2 weeks for weekend romantic escapades with a new spouse in the shop. Robyn models a top that is some type of pilgrim blouse. Christine can't help herself and blurts out, "You look flat-chested." Now that I've gotten to know Christine has always been honest about having either a breast lift or an augmentation. No wonder she is so self-assured in sharing such opinions on her own. I admire her for choosing to do this for herself, particularly in nursing all those children in addition. This is an exercise in self-love and strength. All that aside, I couldn't help but contrast Robyn's appearance then, and now. A fairly drastic transformation. I wondered whether she, too, had had cosmetic surgery done, or whether the change was purely natural, perhaps brought about by lifestyle and diet. The wives do eventually leave for home, and Cody, as is his habit, begins to prattle on in what can only be described as rambling nonsense. He insists that he is able to have multiple wives just as he can have multiple children, and claiming that when baby truly was born, it didn't lower the amount of love he already had for Logan. My reaction at first was that this was a superficial comparison, given Cody has hardly expressed love to Truly, even putting her in harm's way on some instances, when he should have been protecting her. Later, the women pile onto the couch, and Robyn describes how all of the wives just love each other. Her denial is bordering on delusional. Briefly, I envied. Just for one day, having that ability to live in such an inability to read a room, to see the world through rose-colored lenses. It emphasized to me the importance of having people around you who are willing to provide blunt truth, to knock you a peg or two back down when you get too big for your britches. Meri then interrupts with her speculations about plural marriage, likening it to pregnancy. She insists that pregnancy is uncomfortable, but finally worthwhile. To me, the comparison is absurd. At the end of pregnancy, a woman experiences the happiness of having a just-born child, at the end of having Robyn become part of the family. However, the outcome has been nothing less than devastating. Robyn has acted like a parasite, disrupting what was an already fragile dynamic. The evening is topped off with the family sitting down together, slicing cake, and blowing out candles. Cody declares this to be the beginning of a new chapter in their family, one peaceful under his rule. But to anyone who is looking, it is painfully clear that what is ahead is not a chapter of peace, but a slow unraveling. Cody Brown is going to set this family arrangement ablaze, and we will be here, step for step, documenting every moment that it implodes. And there you have it, the honeymoon special wrapping up. Thanks for keeping on reading this recap. If you enjoyed it, I welcome you to subscribe so you can ride with me once again for the next installment. Have a good day till then.